Get your halfpennies ready now, please. Get your halfpennies ready. Come on, missus. Don't be fumbling in your handbag. What are you filtering for there? Get your halfpennies ready. Well, this is where the outfit stood, collecting the halfpennies on the halfpenny bridge in days gone by. You're all right, so you're getting through for nothing today. The turnstiles went away in 1919. The last halfpennies were paid in 1917 when the lease rang out. The halfpenny bridge was built to take the people across to the Crow Street Theatre. Some people rush across the halfpenny bridge. I like to take my time admiring the lamps and the earthenwork of the bridge itself. I like to look upriver to the west at the green domes of Adam and Eve's, St. Patrick's Tower, Gandon and Cooley's forecourts, and then let my eye come down by the Ormond Hotel in Ormond Quay. Of course, this was a ferry crossing before the bridge was built. People were afraid to travel too far afoot for fear of being attacked, so they were carried around in sedan chairs and crossed the Liffey by ferry. There were 7 ferries crossing the Liffey at various points. Looking downriver to the east, to Larkin and Connolly's Liberty Hall and the green dome of James Gandon's Custom House. And over on the right, Austin's Quay and George Webb's print shop and George Webb bookseller. I think I'll wander over and have a look at the books. I suppose it's true to say that I built up my library here with second-hand books and the far side at the Dublin bookshop. There's Seamus O'Sullivan's book, The Rose and Bottles. Seamus stood here himself, as did W.B. Yeats, as did George Bernard Shaw, Sean O'Casey, Padraig Pearse, James Connolly, Joseph Mary Plunkett, Kettle, all the great writers, poets and patriots and scholars. There's a nice one, Maud Gon MacBride, a biography of Yeats' beloved. But she didn't marry Yeats, she married Major John MacBride, who was executed in 1916. And Maud Gon gave a lifetime of service to the cause of Irish freedom. Musical Illusions by James Joyce. And here's a nice one, The Irish Volunteers. There's a nice bit in this by Padraig Pearse about the true flag of Ireland. The authorised flag is a plain gold harp on a green ground, and no other flag except authorised regimental colours is to be carried by the volunteers. The green background and the gold harp, the old ancient flag of Ireland before the green, white and orange tricolour. Here's a guide to Finnegan's Wake. I suppose you would need another guide. They're all Joyce nowadays. But you know, if you were to tell the truth, there was only 2 people understood Finnegan's Wake. James Joyce and myself. And sure, James Joyce is dead. Of course, Crown Alley, the Merchant's Arch and the Halfpenny Bridge is a great shortcut and very popular with Dubliners. If they didn't get it over in Georgia Street or Grafton Street, come on over with Troy Mary Street or Henry Street. So they're not now an old Dublin song. There's no Dublin songs, lads. That's the stuff. Keep up them Dublin songs. The Merchant's Arch. Of course, it was the Merchants Guild Hall and Thomas Trainor's shoe shop. Thomas was out in 1916, fought in the Black and Tan War, was executed by the British. There should be a plaque there to him. There's a fine memorial to him in Tullow, Carlow. And this is where Leopold Bloom bought the book, The Sweets of Sin for Molly. So there's another bookshop there. And Bourne's shoe shop, all things bright and beautiful, like Sharon Bourne fixing the shoes. And the Halfpenny Bridge books. You know, I could never pass by an old bookshop without going in to see could I find another second-hand gem. The Halfpenny Bridge was originally called after Wellington. It was also known as the Metal Bridge and the Earthen Bridge. The bridge was built by Willie Walsh and John Claudius Beresford. Willie Walsh was the man who had 7 ferries operating on the Liffey at various points. The corporation, however, gave him 7 days to fix his leaky barges or he wouldn't get a renewal of the lease. Poor Willie went out and spent £1,000 on repairs, and sure, at the end of the year he was back to the corpo. Look, says he, would you ever give us back a half year's rent? There's no business on the water this weather. It's no wonder Willie Walsh turned to building bridges. Beautiful, John, beautiful. How long are you playing here at the bridge?
40 years.
40 years?
Yeah.
When did you start playing the old fiddle?
From home, like.
Yeah, where are you from?
Kilbegan.
Oh, Kilbegan, Westmeath.
I was down there now this 30 years.
30 years.
You know.
You're that,
You know, and they've been coming out. The house fell down the top of it and we had left.
I see, yeah, good. Do you like sitting here at the Halfpenny Bridge?
I haven't feel like people speak to me here, you know. And,
Yeah,
and
sure.
they're
It's a
company, you know.
friendly old place.
It is, yeah.
Go ahead, give us another bar. You must first get your bachelor's, then your master's.
Yeah, well, I suppose it goes with years training.
A lot of people go into learn the trade as a trader or something, but they only get halfway.
Yeah.
You only become, you only get their bachelor's degree. They never go.
I suppose that's where Jimmy Joyce sat when he was making the deal with the manager. I wonder is your man going to sell them hats in America?
That's a problem all the time.
It's nice to see Jimmy Joyce's photograph in the window of the Dublin Woolen Company, because after all, Jimmy was the Irish agent for the Dublin Woolen Company in Trieste. He came down here in 1909 and made a deal with the manager. So he brought with him 12 yards of Donegal tweed. And to say that half of Trieste were going around in tweed suits and tweed caps, all due to Jimmy Joyce's sales representation. Well, Andy Murray, how are you doing?
No complaints. Nobody's just complaining. You won't get on for complaining.
Yeah, you were a founder member of the Marine, Port and Genital Workers Union.
I was indeed, yeah. Joined it in 1934. I was too young to join it any sooner. It was formed, in 1933.
You're one of the few men who knows where the floating ballroom was in Dublin.
Oh, that I did, yeah. Between the old Liberty Hall, there's a new one there now, the skyscraper.
Yes.
And there was an old boat there, a muck boat, right facing the Tivoli. And there was a floating kip. It went by the floating kip. So the parish priest, I think, got it, and City Key got it shut down.
Did you ever dig any of the boats now?
Well, I tell you, I've done a little bit of spello on it. I was never employed to dig a boat. Now, the coal porters will be there digging the boat in Donnelly's coal place at Old Mungo.
Sure, yeah.
Did you ever hear the Mungo?
Yes, I did.
St. Mungo.
Yeah.
Well, we get into there, and the fellas be going for that beer, and we go down there, 4 of us, and geez, should we have a shovel there, the number 7 shovel?
Yeah, the big heart-shaped one.
Take
about 2 or 3 stone on it.
Well,
and they were all small men, weren't
all small and hard, and I'd all chew tobacco.
Yes, yeah.
I knew one man and his teeth was wore down to the last.
Yeah.
And didn't smoke, but chewing tobacco all his life. Yeah. His teeth was wore down.
So then out for Beardo hour.
For the Beardo. Well, that's where we got our few bob.
Yeah.
We got a tanner off, and then we go to Dow Lick.
Yeah, you were
Or
like,
if it wasn't the lake, it was the Lyceum.
yes, up where the vault.
Or the Vault. Well, the Vault and the Lyceum were much
And,
the same.
yeah.
That was the same name, you
The
know.
mero.
And the mero. Oh, that was my favourite. That was my favourite. The mero was my favourite. I hadn't much fun with the masterpiece at all.
Now, the masterpiece was a bit swanky.
I was a bit swanky. Of course,
And the Grand Central.
Oh, look, oh, I was in there. Oh, my God, I couldn't tell you what happened to me there. Oh, my God. I felt something silky under my foot one time. I didn't tell you what I was.
Coming up Lower Liffey Street, Strand Street on the left, that'll give you an idea. The Liffey came in as far as here, that was the Strand. And over on the right, the lots. Again, reclaimed land, which was parcelled out by the corporation in lots, all drawn out of a hat. Liffey Street was a great area for furniture brokers. And there used to be old gramophone shops and needle shops, and there was a couple of straw bonnet manufacturers.
Mind the road.
Coming out of Liffey Street into Abbey Street. Of course, Abbey Street was the hub of the newspaper industry. The Irish Times, the Freeman's Journal, the Monitor, the Evening and Morning News, Thomas Davis's Nation, and of course, not forgetting the Irish Independent and the Irish Press. Fleet Street in London is the home of the newspaper industry. Our Fleet Street takes its name from the fact that it went down to the fleet of ships in the River Liffey. I'm heading down now towards Capel Street, but sure, I'm a devil for going like a butterfly in a zigzag fashion. But I want to show you a house over here. When I think of the thousands of people that climb these steps, this is all that's left at the Odd Fellows building, the City of Dublin Lodge of the Independent Order of Odd Fellows. We could do with a few lodges around Dublin today, Odd Fellows. Well, in this building met 7 trade unions and 8 loan societies. What stories those rafters could tell. The United Smith Society, the Blind Basket Maker Society, the Chimney Cleaner Society, the Cart Wagon Wheel Society, and all the loan societies that were in here. The Premier Loan, the Workman's Loan, St. Catherine's Loan, St. Abraham's Loan. And the... Didn't I tell you Dublin was full of odd fellas? And the Rechabite Loan, and the Harp Tontine Loan Society. Do you remember the old Tontine societies in York Street? That was the days of the Diddley Fund, before the swanky credit unions came along. The green dome and red brick of Penny's was Todd Burns' old building. Todd Burns employed men and women from 15 different trade guilds. They were silk mercers, shawl men, linen and woolen drapers. It's funny how some people are afraid of graveyards. Yet here's a graveyard turned into a beautiful park, Wolftown Park. That's George Simpson's headstone, and Mrs. Mercer's grave was next to Simpson's. George founded Simpson's Hospital. It was the old Williams and Woods building in Parnell Street. It was a hospital for blind and gouty men. And of course, Mrs. Mercer founded Mercer's Hospital over by Stephen's Green. And of course, Jervis Street Hospital is the oldest Dublin hospital, founded by 6 Dublin surgeons. First opened in 1718 in Cook Street. then moved to Anderson's Court in Greek Street, and then down to Inns Quay, next door to the birthplace of Patrick Dunn, who founded Patrick Dunn's Hospital, and then over to Jervis Street to the Earl of Charlemont's townhouse. And of course, the name that stands out most is Dr. Dominic Corrigan. When he was knighted and when he became famous and he treated the elite, he never forgot Dublin's poor. Wolftown Park was the old St. Mary's Cemetery attached to St. Mary's Church. St. Mary's came about in the 1690s when they divided up the parish of St. Mickens into St. Paul, St. Mary and St. Micken. St. Mary's is one of the oldest Protestant churches in Dublin, and many famous people were associated with it. They say it was Dean Swift's favourite church north of the river. The old St. Mary's Church is now Greek Orthodox. You know, it's a pity in a way that James Joyce isn't still down Mary Street in the Volta Cinema, because James was very fond of the Orthodox churches and spent a lot of time in them, listening to the music and the hymns. This is Wolftown Street. It used to be called Stafford Street because Stafford was the fella who, with Humphrey Jervis, laid out these streets in the 17th century. This was number 44, the birthplace of Theobald Wolftown, the founder of the Society of United Irishmen and the man who went down in history as the father of Irish republicanism. Of course, he was murdered in 1798 in the Provost prison in Arbour Hill. He was baptised across the road in St. Mary's Church. He was the secretary of the Catholic Committee, what was known as the Back Lane Parliament. And of course, Payne's right of man led them forward to the formation of the United Irishmen. Opposite St. Mary's Church is the old Mero picture house. Do you know, we got more education here in the Mero than some of the students did in Trinity College. I'm first in the queue for the Mero. Quit pushing, Marsh.
No, I'm not pushing.
That's all right. I have me fourpence here. There's me orange. There's me cigarette and there's me butt. The butt's for the following upper and the cigarette, after you're ready, the cigarette's for the big picture. Oh, they're open, are you right? That was a powerful picture. The Lone Ranger and all the Indians, but I think Flash Gordon is dead. Emperor Ming got him, shoved him over the cliff. But the Lone Ranger was powerful, shooting all the Indians. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye. Before this building became the Mero, it was Patrick Beakey's. He was a cabinet maker, an upholsterer, an auctioneer, a valuer, and an undertaker. Just imagine, he could make the furniture for you. He could make your bed and your Chesterfield suite and your china cabinets and your tables and chairs. And then when you die, he could bury you. And then he could value your property and sell your house. Do you know what? We're dibbles for tradition in Dublin. Here I am back at the Halfpenny Bridge on a Sunday morning where I've been coming for the past 40 years.
Here, gentlemen out the back there. Here. Here, come in here, I'll give you a kiss a yard long and a foot wide. Here.
Give us one.
Right, Shivery Dick here will be on me left side now in 1 second. Here.
Paddy and Christina Rice are a great Dublin husband and wife team.
I would marry Hector if half the world were dead. Gentlemen, I'm 83 years of age. I'm not kidding.
Oh, you wouldn't indeed.
That old straw hat suits Paddy Slattery. Paddy's a Limerick man, but he went to school in Cork with Frank O'Connor.
The glasses are 150, son. No? Anybody else going to pass them in? Needles galore. But nothing
When
needles,
your sweetheart or your girlfriend gets one of these writing pads, she gets writing pads that she can write the whole story of her life on. There's a different flower in every one. Now you have the envelope. Now they're all made of rice paper. That's stuff that you can't get today.
Adam. Adam.
Beautiful envelope.
Thank you.
There, give us one there.
They are £1.50 for one pair of beautiful glasses and a beautiful frame and first quality goods in all cases. I vet everything I sell to make sure that you're not had a cotton. If you're not more than satisfied, you can bring those back to me any time in the next month and I'll give you your money back. Isn't that fair? And I'll be delighted to see you on the fair. Excuse me for talking like that. I have to get some kind of a tonic to retire businessman. Okay.
Come on, somebody give me an offer for it before I go. Somebody give me 80 quid. Huh? Somebody got £75 in the pocket, that's the lowest I'll go. 75 quid and you can have it. 14 inch. Anybody want it?
No money on it today.
No?
Oh, no. Next week, if you hold it for me.
Huh?
I'll be here next week.
I'll be gone. I'll be gone tomorrow. George!
I can't
Yeah.
My good friend Joe Fitzpatrick drawing a pretty Limerick girl. Joe is a survivor of the Niemba ambush and Dublin's Van Gogh.
Beautiful car pump, plus your gauge, comes out of stock again, around 15 or 16 quid. I'll take a silly, ridiculous price again for it. Not 10, not even 5. Here, not even 4. The first couple of handshakes, the last 3 or 4 of them out of the way, he'll give me 3.50 for it. At 3.5 quid. Anyone make use of it? 3.50? At 3.50, anyone?
Not only is Hector Gray a musician, he's a household word in Dublin, but he's nearly as well known as the Halfpenny Bridge.
Well, now the next item we have here, here's a little job down here really outstanding. It's a folding scissors. Now a small one and as a matter of fact, as good as you'll get. See, my nails are actually worn away scratching for a living, but I can cut them off now. I'll tell you what I'll do if anybody wants one. Good value for £1. Look at that, fold them up. The one thing you've got to do is just make sure you put one in the trash.
Here, £1.50. You know what that mouth organ is worth? That mouth organ is worth £4 or £5. And they call mouth organs for sixpence.
Yeah, me.
Sixpence.
Oh, feel the weight of them. I'm not joking, feel the weight of them. Feel 1.5 quid before I go.
made for the export market, comes out of stock around 39 pence a bar. Here, my price laid out of the way, a silly, bloody, ridiculous price. Here, 50 pence for the 4. Anyone make use of that 50 pence? At 50 pence. Anyone make use of that 50p?
Huh? Mine, you have a pair there. And they were going. Come on, 1.5 quid. Huh? A pound, yeah. Give me a pound.
How much is the doggy in the window?
I got it.
I got really big. Give that bit of paper somewhere.
Any more?
Yeah. You don't want them now because they're only a pound. All right.
Fella says it won't spell. It doesn't spell, it only supposed to write. Here, change over the gentleman. Anyone else here? You'll have one, sir. They'll give you the package and all free of charge. Here. Is there anyone else in with the last one? There's a cow there, pick that up. Is there anyone else in with the last one before I'm done? The last one is a lucky one. It's bound to work. A bloody sacrifice here. The last couple of lots we sell off here. Give us a bag for these, Chrissy.
I'll give you a bag for that.
Here for these. 1, 2. I'm on a straight. Here, my price. £1 for the lot. Anyone make use of the £1? Gentlemen, they charge him £1. Is there anyone else here? Give us a bag up there. 2, 3. Charge the gentleman £1. Here. Is there anyone else there?
How many years I had it?
Yeah, you're here now a long time.
I'm 53 years coming in the matter.
53 years. You should get a plaque.
Oh, they should build a big something up to the sky.